We will begin our public hearing schedule momentarily. My apologies for the delay as we get ourselves organized with only 4 members tonight instead of our usual 5. We hope to be back to full strength next time around. Before we begin our public hearing, hearings, plural, we will take action on the minutes of our last meeting earlier this month and then move into the public hearing. So is there a motion for action on the minutes that have been distributed for the January meeting?
Move approval of the minutes, January 9th.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Our minutes from the 9th of this month are approved. As we move into our public hearing schedule for this evening, just a reminder for those who are not familiar with the process and have not been through this before, as each application is announced by a member of the staff, we ask that the applicant or the representative come forward to the podium in the front of the room, provide your name and address for the record, and a brief summary of the application at hand. Following questions, comments, and so forth from the commission members, we will open up an opportunity for members of the public who wish to speak in favor of the application, and then we will offer an opportunity for the public members who wish to speak in opposition to the application. Where comments are made in opposition, we will encourage the applicant to return to address the comments made in opposition, and we ask that those making comments for or against any given application confine their remarks to 2 minutes so that everyone can cycle through and have an opportunity. With that, I think we're ready to begin. If you would announce our first hearing, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. The first public hearing this evening is AS 2211A, a sign waiver appeal to install a roof sign on property situated at 500 Erie Boulevard East. Smith Building LLC is the property owner, Matthew Paulus is the applicant, and the property lies within a central business district, office and service district. This hearing is a continuation from the meeting on January 9th of this year. As a reminder to the Commission, the proposal deviates from the city zoning regulations in that the subject tenant use is allowed 1 sign not to exceed 30 square feet or to be located above the first floor, and the applicant is proposing to install a 576 square foot double-sided tenant roof sign. The City Planning Commission held a public hearing on the proposal on January 9th, during which you requested additional information regarding the period of significance for the building, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Staff reviewed the National Register nomination and verified that the period of significance is from 1883 to 1970. Staff also coordinated with the National Register coordinator at the New York State Historic Preservation Office, which stated that the nomination does not explicitly call out the billboard as a contributing feature to the historic designation. And with that.
Thank you. Is the applicant here or representative? Oh, good.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Paulus. I am the president of Paulus Development and the owner of the Smith Building. The business address is 225 Wilkinson Street, Syracuse, New York. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here this evening to have a conversation regarding this matter. As stated previously, the request is to appeal the previous decision and also to request a waiver as specified in our application. There are a little bit of history here, which we spoke about previously. This is a historic preservation project. We're very proud and enjoy contributing towards the preservation of historic assets, not only in this community, but in upstate communities, and really enjoy working on this Smith project. In the case of this Smith project, as part of our historic review and approval process, we were required to preserve the sign as part of the Part 2 application. We did that and had marketed that to potential commercial users as part of that. As part of our previous discussions, with many of the agencies here at the city, and we appreciated the support that the city provided us to be able to do this opportunity. We did discuss the preservation and reuse of this, but did not go through all of the proper channels, or address the actual use of the sign. Based upon the current status of the project, we have the approval through our Part 2 application that required us to preserve the sign as part of the project. Additionally, we have anticipated, as part of our permanent loan financing, income generated from that. Without the use of this sign, we won't be able to attract a potential commercial user to utilize the first floor commercial space of this building, as well as be in jeopardy of meeting some of the financial requirements that we set forth here. The Smith project itself is a 38-unit affordable housing project located on 500 Erie Boulevard. It's been a great project that we're very proud of, and it has been very well received from all the residential tenants here, our current residential tenants. We appreciate the commission's time to look at this, but based upon the current economic and physical limitations on what we are allowed to do and what we are not allowed to do as part of being a historic building, we do not have many options. We are not allowed to modify the sign, to remove the sign, and we respectfully ask the planning board, the planning commission's time to consider our application to use that as part of the overall vision for this project, and to allow us to fulfill our economic requirements as part of the project, to ensure that this is a great asset for the city and all the great things that will come as part of the 15th Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here again this evening. Questions for the applicant?
Just looking at your petition for the historical designation, did the previous owner provide you photos, any circa photos, to show how far back that billboard that stands on top of the building, how far back goes to the building?
As of a couple of days ago, we had reached out to our contacts over the Onondaga Historical Association. We have a photo that I believe shows it in place in 1974. We're looking to see if there's any additional photos that exist before that, but at this point, that's the best information we have available.
Okay. And before you contracted to take the building over from Smith Restaurant, as far as we know, Smith Restaurant was the only tenant of that building. Is that true?
They are the primary tenants, occupants. They owned and occupied the building, but prior to that, the building did have several lives. The Porter Cable Manufacturing Company operated out of the building. It was originally an Erie Canal Storage Museum. There was a bicycle company that operated out of it. So there have been a multitude of tenants, most likely before the end of the 20th century, that occupied the building. But commonly here, the Smith Restaurant Supply has been the longtime owners and operators of the building, which is why we kept the name.
And as far as we know, they're the tenant that constructed the billboard at the top of the building. As far as we know.
Yes, as far as we know, yes.
Question then, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman, can I have a question for council?
Please, please.
So a question comes up with, when does something that's been added to a structure become entitled to pre-existing condition status? And without driving my colleagues crazy, I'll give you the examples that stick in my head. We have dealt with a company that, it's a brewery now. There's a building that stands opposite the wastewater plant at Hiawatha Boulevard. But there was a pole sign that the commission never knew existed. So when they came in, we couldn't consider it a pre-existing condition because going through the history, there was no link with the commission or any other pre-existing authorizing body to say that that pole sign could be there. The same thing happened with another billboard on top of another building on Erie Boulevard. The billboard was there and used commercially for over 30 years, but there wasn't an approval for it. So our question would be, if the main tenant created it and used it for their own advertising, would that become a pre-existing condition that the new building owner could rely on?
May I ask the board for some indulgence? That would be an issue that I would need to look into. and do some additional research and report back to you on what and when something becomes a pre-existing condition.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, we want to see if there's public comment and then think about what we're going to do next.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you have additional
Thank you.
questions at this point?
No, because there's something the applicant can't possibly know. To be fair to the applicant, you can't possibly know everything about the creation of that billboard. Maybe the Historical Society can help flesh out our knowledge, but there's some things I think the Corporation Council has to research for us.
Okay. So if you will remain nearby, we will make the offer, as I indicated at the outset. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application, please come forward, provide your name, address, and your comments, up to about 2 minutes. And seeing no one wishing to speak under that category, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward, provide your name, address, and offer your comments. Okay, we have no additional speakers this evening. We've got a question presented to our legal counsel from one of the commission members. Obviously, you can't do that research instantaneously. And my suggestion then would be, in order to provide you and the rest of us with a response to the point that you raised, the question that you raised, I'm going to suggest that we hold this hearing open for once more till we reconvene in February, which will likely provide sufficient time for the background research that you'll conduct. Okay. Are my colleagues in agreement with that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here again. We will see you again next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the hearing remains open for AS-22-11A. Our next hearing, please.
The next public hearing is ZA-22-08A, the Certificate of Appropriateness Appeal to install a pressure-treated stair on property situated at 130 Circle Road. Prasonka Family Trust is the property owner, and Carol and Peter Prasonka are the applicants, and the property lies within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
My name is Paul Belinsky. I'm representing Peter Przunka as the property manager for his property. And the property in question here, this is 130 Circle Road. I'm sorry.
Can you just state your address for the record, please?
The address that
Or
we're,
the company address, whichever.
the company address is 1226 East Fayette Street, Syracuse, New York.
Thank you.
13210. And the address that we're talking about here is 130 Circle Road, Syracuse, New York, 13210. We did apply for a certificate of appropriateness, and it was originally denied with the statement that that there's a removal of the original stone steps, and the construction of a new pressure-treated wood stairs was out of character of the historical property and the surrounding district, which is damaged. It damaged the integrity of the property's historic settings. It also stated that the new stairs are visually intrusive and more compatible with, and they're saying that they're not compatible with the historic character of the property. So we wanted to address these issues here. I do have pictures of, it's not the clearest picture, but I do have a picture of the steps that were there.
You can just give it to us.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. This is what
What was there was not actually stairs, they were stepping stones.
Okay.
There was no handrail, and it was extremely dangerous for an able-bodied person like myself to walk up and down, especially when it's wet or when in bad conditions. This is the main entrance. This is the only way to the main entrance of the house from the driveway, which presented a very big problem for my client because it's dangerous, and as a property owner, he doesn't want to get sued in case of, you know, anybody could. And on top of that, could have relatives or loved ones that are there, and he doesn't want them to get hurt. So this was a very serious concern. The issues, so the safety was the first priority, obviously there. The proposed steps made of pressure-treated wood allowed for proper handrails for support and safety, which originally there was obviously no handrails, and the steps that were there were stepping stones that were very uneven and very difficult to walk on. The rail steps were, they can be stained to match the house and to match the surrounding, you know, the decor of the neighbors. The pressure-treated wood is used in a number of the properties in the close proximity that are under the same historic registry as this house, including next door. The design of the handrails and the steps are almost identical to the next door property. The only difference really is that it could be stained to match the house, which it hasn't been stained at this time. It's noted that we actually took pictures of many of the houses in the neighborhood that are on the same historical registry list, and many of them have very similar structures made of pressure-treated wood or composite board even that would be come into question. Including there's a walkway that the city put in, a sidewalk, and what used to probably be metal handrails was replaced by the city with wooden handrails made out of pressure-treated wood. So the fact that the city itself has put pressure-treated wood in their construction of the sidewalks would indicate that that's not out of character of this neighborhood. And we have many pictures to show this. I can go through the whole list, but it was a lot. Now, also, the new addition does not impact the character of the neighborhood. I can show you multiple pictures. There's a lot of pictures I have of the front of the house, and I'll get to these if we're able to see. The front of these stairs are not at all visible from the front of the house. There are all different angles of this house, and they're not at all visible. So it has absolutely zero impact on the visual, on the character of the house, period. They're not visible. So that argument shouldn't really hold. And I can show you this. This is the front of the house from all the time. There are zero visibility.
You're just saying from the public right-of-way, though, but
Yes.
that's not a criteria in the ordinance, though.
Okay.
It's not limited to that,
Not limited to the.
from the public right-of-way.
Okay.
Not that I recall, anyway.
Okay.
But,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Okay. So the impact on the visual aspect of the house is that it's not visible at all. To preserve the historic materials, we did actually preserve the stones. So if that was something that was of sentimental value, we can put the stones, the stepping stones next to the stairs. It's just that we don't really want people walking on them because they're dangerous to walk on. And so we do have those. That wouldn't be an issue. I believe, other aside from just the million, we have a lot of pictures to show, but that's basically it. We have on the same form that he gave you, there is a picture of the next door neighbor, the decking next door, and the handrails and the style of the steps is almost identical to this style. And this is directly next door. The only difference is that this is already stained and the ones that we have is not stained. And we did pull up through the Freedom of Information Act, we pulled up all the records regarding permits that were pulled, and some of these projects on the other houses did have permits pulled and some of them did not, but even the ones that were approved, they all were using the very similar material to what we used. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from the commission members for the applicant?
I'm curious why the property owners didn't go through the appropriate procedures with the Preservation Board.
I take personal responsibility for that. I do apologize. I was under the impression that a floating structure did not need a permit at the time, and it was something that we were trying. My guys got ahead of us on that, and I do apologize for that. It was a safety concern, and we were trying to get it done, and we didn't get the permit quick enough, and it was a floating staircase. So that was my own error. I do apologize.
Other questions for the applicant from the commission members?
So if you do know, so when the application was made, the staircase already existed, is that what happened?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. No other questions, thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will pause and see if there are members in the audience who wish to speak in favor of this application. If so, come forward, provide your name and address for the record, and your comments.
Hi, my name is Brian Rowdy. I live at 12 Brattle Road. I don't know the applicant, but I do live in a historic designated property, and I know what it's like. I also have done a whole lot of renovation myself. First off, I'll start off and say pressure-treated lumber is generally discouraged. That part is true. There's lots of places where you can find where they say pressure-treated lumber. It's a modern material. However, it's commonly used in structural applications. For example, if you wanted to build a new structure and you've got something in masonry, you have to use pressure-treated wood. It's code. So it's not totally forbidden. It's just something that's generally discouraged because it doesn't look modern. It is used.
I'm sorry, you're saying by code it has to be a wood stair? It can't be a stone stair?
I have 2 minutes. I'd like to continue moving them. I am
could you
not
just
saying it has to.
clarify?
No,
just
I'm not.
clarify.
I am not saying that it has to be
Oh, I'm sorry,
pressure treated.
that's what I thought I heard you say.
I'm saying code requires any wood that touches masonry to be pressure treated.
Okay.
So anyway, you're allowed to use pressure treated in certain applications, but not in everything. It's generally discouraged. It's not forbidden. And so that part's true. However, this application came in with it. There's a lot of pressure-treated lumber in the preservation district, approved and not approved. So this one I do feel was singled out. The design of the stairs is similar to a porch that was right next to it. You can see that in one of the photos, just, having a similar, 2x construction with rail spires. And I feel that in this case, this could be remedied in any number of ways that don't involve rejecting the application. There was, by my math, about 3,000 pounds of concrete that were pulled in that would have to be pulled out to make the foundation. There was tons of structural. Even if you wanted to be very strict at a minimum, you could negotiate with the applicant to redo all of the treads and the railings, all of the what's surfaced. That wasn't attempted. And in my opinion, really what you would need to do is just stain it to match the house. At that point, you wouldn't be able to tell if it's pressure treated or pine. It would match, it would be consistent. And I think that would be a reasonable remedy to the situation. Instead, that wasn't what was happened. This was, I feel, singled out and rejected, despite lots and lots of pressure treated lumber all over the place in preservation districts. So I find that arbitrary and capricious and encourage you to overturn.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward to provide your name and address and comments.
Good evening. Good to see you all. My name is Robert Haley. I'm the Vice Chair of the Landmark Preservation Board for the City of Syracuse. I've lived on Buckingham Avenue for 50 years now, so in the university area, and know this area quite well. I've been on the Landmark Preservation Board for almost half of that time, and this is not a new issue. We speak against the approval of this application and this appeal from the basis essentially that the design that was built is not or would not have been approved prior to, if we had seen it through the normal procedures, which is to apply for a permit first for any work, and then to show the drawings or show the drawings first to the Landmark Preservation Board, whichever an applicant chooses, to get input to the standards that are in place for a historic district. There are historic guidelines for this, the Berkeley Park Historic District guidelines, and they are clear to the nature of the properties, and how one interprets the appropriate changes or additions to those properties. Essentially, in an area like this, which has an older residential home district, these are houses, typical Syracuse homes built between the 1890s and 1930s. These houses are a beautiful area in a beautiful, unique part of the city. And the guidelines that are then used are particular to those neighborhoods. So the form and shape of those houses is important. And the form and shape of how the houses sit on the landscape is important. Setbacks, heights, area yards, driveways, walkways, everything about the nature of the original area that was the defining characteristics for the historic district. In this case, the applicant came to us and they had already built their construction, which is why there's an appeal. We reviewed it, which is what we do in a case like this, as if it had not been built. In other words, we don't start from the back and try and go back to the original condition. We start from the front, which are the standards. In this case, two essential characteristics, and we've given you the minutes of the meeting, and we've given you the resolution. But the two essential components are that the stairway did not follow the nature of the original stairway. And I think another factor that's really important is the house had a front door, and it has been turned around by the nature of the use of the building in this case. And so, as you've heard tonight, evidently the front door was changed from the owner's point of view. Again,
10 seconds.
pardon me?
I'm just giving you an indication that you have 10 seconds left.
10 seconds. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You should tell me this in the beginning. I apologize. I apologize. Should I ask you for questions against what we've already submitted? Let me just summarize in 10 seconds. Essentially, the stair that was there was never interpreted for a potential future rehabilitate the stairway with the same materials. So essentially here, the materials were changed, the form was changed, and the new materials that were used were inappropriate, and the new design that was used was inappropriate. So we denied it, and that's where we stand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
It's okay.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? Come forward and provide your name and address for the record, and then your comments, please.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me address this group tonight. My name is Carol Borg, last name B-O-R-G. I live directly behind this property at 943 Comstock Avenue. A couple of things that I'd like to make a statement about, and then I have a few pictures to share with you as well. To my understanding, when this house most recently was sold, there was a casual conversation between a neighbor and I'm not sure if it was you or some other building representative, and the person asked if, what's the deal with the preservation board if we want to do something to the house. So it would appear that there was some level of knowledge that you're in a historic area and you can't change things without permission. The other piece of it is code enforcement was notified when the construction began, but the construction continued after the property was sited. And again, this is to the best of my knowledge. I know bits and pieces. Which brings us to where we are today. The pictures that were recently sent, and I happened to see them of all the other properties in the neighborhood, I think of as a whataboutism. Well, they did it, they did it. The Historic Preservation District was not in effect all that long. I've lived in the neighborhood 34 years. It has not been in effect the whole time I've been there. So if these various steps or porches were built before, they're grandfathered. This is different. The other piece, and it's in my picture number 3, one of the houses next to me at 941 Comstock had a pressure-treated lumber porch on the front of the house, which was put up without approval. It took forever to get it taken down because it was not appropriate. So we have had people take things down that aren't appropriate and replace it with something that's less offensive. I strongly urge you to deny this request. And I have, in the first picture, I don't know if it's any better than the previous one, of what the stairs looked like. And the second one is the view from my backyard. And then the third one is the pressure-treated porch that was demolished.
Be able to keep these for the file? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
There are other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application. Please come to the podium.
Good evening. My name's Harold Mattson. I live on Dorset Road in Syracuse, in that neighborhood. I'm sure you've got a great deal of information and opinion about the stairs. I won't talk about them. I would like to speak to you as a planning commission and to ask if you would please consider the possibility of upholding a plan for the city which says that commercial use is inappropriate and not to be allowed in residential A1 neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application?
Hello, my name is Mike Stanton. I live at 315 Berkeley Drive, also in the Historic District. I'm also president of the Southeast University Neighborhood Association. About a decade ago, neighbors in the Berkeley Park Historic District, not then, in the Berkeley Park area, worked very hard to get the Berkeley Park Historic District established as a locally controlled historic district. And the reason for that was to prevent exactly the sort of thing that we're talking about here tonight. We knew we couldn't keep investors from coming in and buying properties in the neighborhood, but we wanted to be sure that those properties weren't remodeled in ways that were convenient, cheap, and to make it easier to make as much money as possible on them. We've seen a couple national organizations that make recommendations for investment in property, list Syracuse among the top 10 places in the country to invest. The real estate is inexpensive, and the proceeds in relation to the cost of the property is significant. We also saw a national organization list Syracuse second only to Binghamton nationally as a place to invest in properties near universities. Put those things together, and that may be why we're seeing people in California, like in this case, buying properties here. We recently had somebody in Virginia buy a property here, and more recently, somebody in the Poughkeepsie area. What we are worried about is that these places will get the impression that Syracuse rolls over. You can buy a property here, do what you want. They're not going to enforce the rules. What should have been done here is that the applicant should have come to the Landmark Board before doing anything. If he was going to be here appealing it, it would be before he'd done anything, and then you could be discussing what should actually be done. Many of us here today have been before the Landmark Board at different times for projects of our own. We often come in thinking we want to do this and end up doing something else. Often it's a better suggestion than what we had originally. So I hope you will enforce that for these owners too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other individuals who may wish to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. I see no further speakers this evening, so as we indicated before, you have an opportunity, if you choose to use it, to address some of the comments made in opposition.
So one of the comments that was made was that this would have been grandfathered, or the other examples that we used would have been grandfathered in. We pulled up all the records, obviously, and one of the records that I have in front of me was from April 12, 2021. This is 111 Circle Road, and obviously that was not grandfathered in. So we can look at the pictures and see what that was regarding to. And another issue was that it was stated that we were using it for commercial use. We have never, and we do not intend to ever use this property for commercial use at all. So that shouldn't be a concern. Our only concern is to keep the property in great condition and have it and preserve the appearance of the house, and to keep it a safe place for people to be. Of course, it is an investor. We are planning on renting it, but we intend to rent it to qualified, mature people who will be an addition to the neighborhood and not detract from it. The other thing was that is if it's out of character in some way, if there is something that is out of character, obviously pressure-treated wood's not out of character, but if there is something that we can do to modify the steps to make them so they would qualify, we would be happy to work with that. We just need them to be safe. All we're looking for is them to be safe for whoever is there. And I believe that might be it as far as the concerns. We're not trying to in any way deteriorate the neighborhood. This is an investment, obviously, for somebody, and this is something that is close to heart. And so we would like to keep it as nice as possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commission members, we've heard the summary of the appeal, some comments in favor and comments in opposition. Do you have additional questions or information points that might be needed to render a decision? Or are we in a place with sufficient information such that we can close the public hearing?
I think we can close the hearing. Thank you.
Okay. This hearing is now closed. Does anyone wish to advance a motion either way on the appeal before us?
This denial of the appeal.
Second.
Discussion.
I'd just like to point out that many of the examples that were provided indeed stem from prior to the preservation district being in effect. I'd also like to point out that the use of pressure-treated wood to emulate a porch or a deck is decidedly different than a pressure-treated stair in the middle of the landscape. And lastly, that many properties in this neighborhood have completely safe stone staircases, which is historically what was done as part of the original development of the early 19th century district, and likely could have taken place here if they had conferred with the Preservation Board in advance or had stopped work when they were told to. So it's unfortunate that we're at this point, but it could have been avoided, and therefore I believe that we should deny the appeal.
Discussion? And all in favor of the motion before us, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So the appeal is denied for CA-22-08A. Our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is SP 23-01, a special permit application for light-duty motor vehicle repair in order to establish automotive glass repair shop on property situated at 1011-1055 West Genesee Street, which is also known as 1033 West Genesee Street. 1001 West Genesee Street LLC is the property owner. Glass America Midwest LLC is the applicant, and the property lies within a business Class A zoning district.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Harrell with CHA Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. The address is 300 South State Street, Suite 600. So as Jeff stated, we are here today for Glass America is moving into an existing tenant space which has been vacated. As you can see on the map, it's the hatched area in the Genesee complex. It was formerly occupied by a gym, and Glass America is going to move into the vacant space. There's minor demolition and removal of one or two walls within the space. Glass America only does windshields. They don't do collision or auto body work. And a majority of their techs work out of vans, so they'll show up in the morning, get in their van, and go out to various client sites. There will only be one or two techs on site for clients who come to the site for repair and calibration of their windshields. I guess I'll open it up to the board for any questions.
Questions for the applicant?
Just, there was a question about one of the exits. It was a request that the vehicle entrance and exit not be allowed from Park Avenue. Staff or anyone discuss that with you in your application?
I will answer that to be no, because the site plan did not propose any
Okay.
access to or from Park Street.
So
So then, you're talking about a demolition, and you're talking about not doing, even though you're classified as light auto vehicle repair, in fact, what you're repairing is glass.
Yes,
And so everything that you use, your machinery, your chemicals are all related to glass only?
yes.
Okay. And I saw a letter in here, I apologize if I'm reading a condition that doesn't have to apply. There are no further questions.
I saw the comment too, and I think it's raises a good concern. So if you can confirm that that operation does not need entry and exit from Park Avenue, that would be reassuring to me, especially since the school is less than a half block away. So if they're relatively minor,
You'd have to come out on the Gettys or.
no, there's a gate on Park. There's a gate on Park, but maybe the plan is not to use it.
No, it's not. I believe that might be for emergency access only. Okay.
That's good to know.
Can we get that, like, confirmed first?
I would just offer to the planning commission, you may certainly condition any
Okay.
approval on
Yeah.
the condition that the applicant not access Park Street. That can be a condition of approval.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Are there any individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. We have no additional speakers. I think we can close this public hearing and entertain a motion one way or the other. SP-2301.
Move approval with a negative declaration, also asking that a resolution would be conditioned, the approval would be conditioned that there would be no access, no exit or entrance to this facility at, just giving the address 1011 to 1055 West Genesee Street, that there wouldn't be an entrance or exit on Park Avenue.
Before there's a second to the motion.
And the actual, and the sign waiver, the actual,
Right.
because I was so excited about Park Avenue, the actual waivers on the number of signs, right? That there's a,
Well, that's what I would like to just bring up to the planning commission, because it did not come up during the presentation or discussion. Although the applicant, by way of the application, they're proposing to maintain existing signage, the application did not contain any specifications for signage. So if the planning commission is open to approving this request to maintain existing signage, I would just ask that you stipulate, as previously approved as part of the special permit for the indoor amusement recreation, or specify 2 wall signs, non-illuminated.
right.
But that's up to you. In doing so, you would have to grant the sign waiver.
Right, so, thank you for coming back to the podium. You're proposing 2 signs that are larger than what are normally allowed. Normally they're allowed 1 40-square-foot sign. Are you saying that there's already in existence 2 wall signs?
I believe so. There are no
Yes, there are.
proposed changes
Yes,
to the
there are.
signage. Yeah.
It's okay to say yes. So, I'm now going to reconfigure my proposal here. Any other questions before I jump ahead?
I was just gonna say, in regards to the exit at Park Avenue, if the applicant wanted to do something in the future, they would just fully understand that they would have to come back in front of us to get that, access.
Yeah.
Understood, right. Anything else you want to raise, sir?
That's it. Sorry.
No, just the signage, will come back with the signage to show you and get that approved separately. That signage wouldn't be part of this approval, was my understanding. Unless I'm unless you understand.
If the applicant is proposing to maintain 2 wall signs as previously approved by the Planning Commission on September 21st, 2015 as part of SP 1518, you would not have to come back to this commission provided they reapprove those signs tonight. The only thing that would be changing is the copy. Nothing else from those 2 signs would be changing from what was approved in 2015. Now, if any other parameters of that signage changes, then you would have to come back to this commission to modify the signage.
Okay. Because Glass America just hasn't presented us with the signage to provide to you. So that's,
Easy.
I thought that the context of the sign, the graphic image had to be approved as well, even if it fit within those same parameters.
Sign type,
Size
I
and
dimension.
apologize.
Size, number, location, non-illuminated, all that we do.
Okay, thank you.
So, go for it.
If it's all right with the commission and the chair. So I'm going to restate this motion until I get it right. Move approval of the negative declaration. Again, the conditioning resolution on no entrance or exit from Park Street, and granting a waiver for sign number and for the square foot size of the signs,
To match what's there. What we
to
are.
match what we are now know on the record was previously approved by this commission.
Second.
There you go.
Discussion on the motion before us.
I think maybe just a word to the applicant. So if your client likes the size of the signs and the design and just wants to change the copy, you're good to go. But if they were to say to you, oh, hey, we want them way bigger or way smaller, then you have to come back.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Well,
All right, thank you.
Further comments? And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And we have approval for the special permit SP 23-01 on West Genesee Street. Our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is R 23-01, a re-subdivision to combine 2 properties situated at 210 and 212 Merriman Avenue into 1 new lot. Parrish and Sheltina Brooks and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and the applicants, and the properties lie within residential Class AA zoning district.
Good evening. Rashad Rush representing NEDA in the Vacant Land Bank Program, 101 Gertrude Street. The land bank demolished a decapitated 2-family structure. I'm sorry. I'm just getting over my fear of public speaking.
Just take a deep breath, you're fine.
that's a great opener. Seriously.
Now you have us.
Okay. Decapitated a 2-family structure at 212 Merriman Avenue in September 2021. Sheltina and Parrish Brooks own and live in the adjacent single-family home at 210 Merriman Avenue and would like to acquire and fence in this lot next door for additional green space. Their home currently has 2 illegal parking spaces in the front yard, and to merge the lots, zoning will require that they narrow the driveway in the front yard to 12 feet wide and extend it beyond the front of the house to create room for parking. We did not offer half of the lot to the adjacent neighbor at 214 Merriman Avenue because they already have a double lot. While the lot is buildable, there is very little privately financed infill construction happening in the city. Most new construction is subsidized and completed by affordable housing developers like Home Headquarters and Housing Visions. While the mayor's office is currently planning its Resurgent Neighborhoods initiative to construct 75 new two-family and 50 new single-family homes in the city of Syracuse, this property is not located within the boundaries of the RNI project. This re-subdivision will give the property owners adequate space to install a driveway and to park their two vehicles. It will allow them to bring their property into the conformance with the zoning ordinance. There are several other lots of a comparable size located in the vicinity. These include 214 Merriman, which is 99 by 132, 220 Merriman, which is 99 by 132, and 222 Merriman Avenue, which is 99 by 132. This wider lot will not be out of character with other properties in the neighborhood. When we do sell these as side lots, we require our buyers merge them with their adjacent property so that the lot doesn't become orphaned again at a later date, so buyers will have an easier time in the future obtaining fence permits. And in some cases, so that they will be allowed to use the lot for off-street parking. In this case, it will enable the Brooks to obtain a fence permit to enclose their enlarged yard and to install a new driveway. Also, this proposal offers the opportunity to put the vacant parcel back into taxable and productive use. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant?
Almost set.
Are there any individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. We have no additional speakers tonight on this application, so we will close this public hearing and entertain a motion for action on it. R-23-01.
Move approval of the negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion?
Just like to note for the record that the traditional lot block pattern in this neighborhood is substantially already disrupted. So making this change, or approving this, will not incur additional change in the neighborhood.
Further discussion? And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And the re-subdivision on Merriman Ave is approved.
May I ask that the record just be corrected for one moment? Ms. Peters, was your motion to move approval of the resub with a neg deck? Or did you just move the neg deck?
Oh, together.
Thank you. Just want to make sure the record was.
Can't remember what I said, but I meant it together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're clear on R-23-01, and we'll move to our next public hearing.
The next public hearing is R-23-02, re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 938 and 940 West Lafayette Avenue into one new lot. Howard Seabrook and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and the applicants, and the properties lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
Okay. Now you're a seasoned pro at this.
Say my address again?
Please, again.
Rashad Rush, representing NEDA Inc. in the vacant lot program, 101 Gertrude Street. 940 West Lafayette Avenue has been in the land bank's inventory since 9/24/2015. In May of 2022, the land bank demolished a decapitated single-family home. The owner of the single-family dwelling at 938 West Lafayette Avenue would like to purchase the vacant lot for additional yard space for his tenants. While the lot is buildable, there is very little privately financed infill construction happening in the city. Most new construction is subsidized and completed by affordable housing developers like Home Headquarters and Housing Visions. While the mayor's office is currently planning its Resurgent Neighborhoods initiative to construct 75 new two-family and 50 new single-family homes in the city of Syracuse, this section of Lafayette Avenue is outside the target area for this project. The other adjacent property is a non-conforming two-unit structure in the residential class A1 zone. A use variance would be required to expand the non-conforming use. The demolition of the decapitated house that has like this section of West Lafayette Avenue since well before 2015 vastly improves the character of this street. Merging the partials will ensure that the property owner will receive one tax bill and that the vacant lot does not become orphaned again at a later date. It will make the process of applying for driveway and fence permits easier. This proposal offers the opportunity to put the vacant partial back into taxable and productive use. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Are there questions for the applicant?
All set.
Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Please come to the podium. We have no additional speakers. I think we are in a position where we will close this public hearing and entertain a motion on R-23-02, the proposed re-subdivision on West Lafayette Ave.
Motion to approve with a negative declaration, as well as granting the waiver for the non-conforming use.
I'm sorry, what waiver for a non-conforming use?
Was there one for?
No, she's saying they would have needed one.
Oh, pardon me, I totally misunderstood it. So just motion to approve with a negative declaration. Pardon me.
Second.
Discussion.
Just like to point out that in the greater neighborhood area, not necessarily on this block, there's already been a disruption of the traditional lot block pattern, but there's also some interesting building block patterns in this particular part of the neighborhood. So approving this really doesn't impose a big change on what's in the neighborhood.
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? R-23-02 is approved. I think that completes our public hearing schedule for this evening, not our business for this evening. And we move to new business. Jeff, would you introduce the first of these items, please?
The first new business item is SR-11-11M2, a site plan review for an antenna in order to modify an existing tower-mounted antenna array on property situated at 810 Hiawatha Boulevard East. Victor Stasiuk is the owner. Sarah Coleman with Aerosmith Development is the applicant, and the property lies within an industrial Class A zoning district. The scope of work consists of replacing 6 antennas and relocating 3 existing antennas, and includes the installation of a DC-9 box and associated cables. The proposal will not increase the overall number of antennas. The proposal requires review by the Planning Commission because the proposed antennas extend above the height of the tower, which is a deviation from Part C, Section 1, Article 7. The Planning Commission did approve a site plan review in October of 2011 to replace 9 antennas with 9 new antennas that did extend above the top of the tower. However, I'm unable to determine how far above the tower they extended. However, there was a modification in April of 2016 to replace 3 of those antennas, and it established an overall height for the tower with the antennas of 107 feet. This proposal maintains that overall tower height of 107 feet.
Thank you. Any questions for the commission, from the commission members?
I'm all set.
All set.
All set, thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion for action on this site review?
Move approval of the negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Site plan review SR-11-11M2 is approved, taking us to a couple of 3-mile limit cases.
The next new business item is a 3-mile limit subdivision review from the town of DeWitt for Empire's Best Subdivision, which combines 3 properties situated at 6905 and 6913 Manlius Center Road and 6029 Manlius Town Line Road into 2 new lots. Gregory Burkhart with Empire's Best Car Wash Incorporated and Daniel and Mary Redmond are the owners, and Dave Clements from Splash Car Wash Incorporated is the applicant. The purpose of the subdivision is to resolve a land dispute between the property owners. The town of DeWitt approved the re-subdivision in October of last year. The application included a subdivision map that illustrates the 2 proposed lots, and it was reviewed by the City of Syracuse Department of Engineering, and the town of DeWitt acted as lead agency and made a negative secret determination.
Thank you. I don't think I've ever seen one of these that came to us because of a dispute. But how it got here is not the important
It's the area
thing.
that buffers between the 2 lots.
Okay. But the important thing is that the city engineer's office has reviewed this and signed off on it. So clearing the way for action by the planning commission. Is there a motion on 3S-23-02 in the town of DeWitt?
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The town of DeWitt 3-mile limit case is approved, and we have one more in the town of Onondaga.
The last new business item is 3S-23-03, a 3-mile limit subdivision review in the town of Onondaga for the Tower subdivision to divide 1 parcel situated at 4111 Sentinel Heights Road into 2 new lots, and Patricia Tower is the owner and the applicant. The purpose of this subdivision is to create a building lot for a single-family dwelling. The town of Onondaga signed the re-subdivision map on November 7th of 2022. The subdivision map was reviewed by city engineering, and the town of Onondaga made a negative secret determination on December 13th of 2021.
Okay. Vote's complete, and we have sign off from the engineer's office. Is there a motion on 3S-23-03?
Move approval.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Onondaga 3-mile limit case is approved. Our last item before the authorizations and adjournment would be a discussion on the rezone Syracuse process and the date that we're trying to determine for briefing the commission and setting the public hearing
Yes.
that we need to hold.
So as you are aware, we are nearing the goal line for rezone, and the rezone team has requested to have time before the planning commission to present you with an information brief on the final draft, if you will, for rezone. They requested a window of 2 to 9 February. I understand there was a survey that went out, and I don't have, okay, I would just offer, my understanding is that the tentative date does not include everybody from the planning commission. And I would just offer to the commission that you are not obligated to this window, and if there's another time that in order for the entire commission to meet, you have that prerogative.
I think it'd be preferable if all commission members could attend. I'm wondering if we could open the window a little bit wider and capture some more dates and maybe do another survey really fast, like in the next day or two, to see if we can nail down something where all commission members are available. If we fail at the second attempt, we'll maybe have to go back and regroup and see where we get the most people. But if we could do another survey, is that possible?
Can I just add something real quick?
Yeah.
So what I proposed, and we kind of thought it might make more sense, was to see the results of the first survey, and then basically I could say, based on what's there, whatever day was most popular, if I wasn't a part of that, I could say, hey, I could maybe make a decision and make myself available. So could we see the results of the survey and then go from there first before we
Yeah, is there one date where 4 of us are
Yeah,
available?
like
So here's what I would like to share with you.
Go ahead.
I have limited technology abilities.
Okay.
So the survey went out appropriately with the dates, the times, the options.
Mm-hmm.
But it was anonymous. The results are anonymous to me,
Yeah.
so I don't know which of you picked them. So we can go over the dates and you could look and
Yeah,
tell me.
let's do that. Let's do
I
that.
know that, so a majority of the board said that they were available February 7th from noon to 2. A majority, was that the 4 of you by any chance?
Yes, because I picked all the noon dates,
Okay.
noon time, excuse me, just not the
Okay.
evening, just not the evening time.
Only 4 I couldn't make. That was one of them.
Noon to 2, that was one of the ones I couldn't.
Okay, so
Alright.
now we need to pick a new date. So do we want to just take 5 minutes and look at those dates now to see if there's one that works for all 4 of you during that time period?
Or is there a second place?
Yeah, what's a follow-up date?
Oh, okay, hold on 1 minute, I apologize.
That's right.
I like George's idea. If we can find the dates where the most yeses are,
Yep.
then the noes can maybe think about it.
Pressuring them, but
So, the 7th, both times worked for a majority, so either the 12 to 2 or the evening time. On the 8th, 12 to 2 worked. And on the 9th, 12 to 2 worked. So the only time the evening one worked for a majority was on the 7th.
Okay.
I could do the evening of the 7th if the 8th and the 9th are 12 to 2.
Well, I'm only seeing results so that the majority of the
Right,
board, right.
But that's all 12 to 2.
And the other thing is the times in some ways were, the noon time wasn't, we try to be intentional about that, but the start time for the evening one, you know, we're flexible, we're trying to make it as convenient for you guys as possible, knowing that you have day jobs.
Okay.
So, but if you needed a half hour earlier, a half hour later to make that time slot work for you, on the 7th, we can do that too, or any of those nights for the most part.
12 to 2, if I left here at 2. 40, I could be there. It's my father, he's so slow, I gotta get him in the car and get him to his appointment. Or I could make.
the 7th works for me, but I had indicated that already in the poll.
I could maybe, if I even snuck out a little early, I might be able to do the 7th or the 9th, 12 to 2. I could,
Steve can't do the
oh,
7th.
you can't do this in the after, you can't do 12 to 2 on the 7th, though.
Right.
Okay,
Do you want to look at the beginning of the following week?
sure.
I offer
It's
that just as,
week of the 13th.
I haven't checked with any other human involved, but let's just go for it. I have
I'm
more
pretty
control over
flexible.
them than I do.
Humans just complicated, I tell you.
So let's do it together. Monday, the 13th at noon.
Could do that. February 13th at noon.
Or evening.
February 13th noon works for me.
I could do that.
Got something at 1 o'clock.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Okay.
Then move along.
How about,
Monday evening is fine, or later in the afternoon.
The 13th in the evening would work, yes.
okay,
I could do that.
Same, I can make it work.
just do it. Let's.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, don't take.
Whatever your heart desires, Ms. Katzoff, the 13th is wonderful.
Perfect. So this is just going to be an informational meeting. It will be an open meeting, so the public can join if they want, but it is an informational meeting for planning and my office to present to you where we are with rezone, generally what it looks like, what you can expect, that kind of thing. We will then be asking this board to actually hold a formal public hearing. You will need to make a findings and determinations for the seeker part of it, which our office will prepare and present to you if seeker's been completed by the Common Council. And then we will ask that you make ultimately a recommendation to the Common Council. So it's all coming, but this first meeting, which will be the 13th, did we decide you wanted to start at 5, 5:30, 6?
5:30 work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
5:30 on the 13th. Again, that will just be informational
Yep. Will we be
Let
here?
Rebecca know.
here.
And we'll let Rebecca know.
We will,
And we'll cross our fingers it's okay.
yes. And we'll
And
let
if
the
it's-
chamber, whoever is in charge of reserving the chamber, will do that. And we'll notice the meeting just as a special meeting you're having. And the agenda will just be informational regarding rezone.
I would ask that the commission consider, if the chambers are not available on the 13th, we could look at the atrium as a backup location,
Oh, yeah,
if that's okay.
That's totally fine.
iLab,
I would say let's check with Rebecca and make sure, because we'd like to all of us be there, so if for some reason that doesn't work, we'll revisit, but
okay,
that would be good if we do it. Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got a bunch.
And the public hearing date, though, we're not gonna talk about
No,
that?
no.
Not yet, okay, good, great.
But that would be within a period of several weeks following.
Yes, shorter rather than longer, if I can control it at all.
Okay.
I will point out also that the latest version of rezone will be available on February 1st.
I believe so, yes.
There will either be a link, or I can certainly provide a hard copy to the commission members.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask again,
I'm good with like.
previous versions of rezone, do any of those binders get recycled? Is there anything that can be done with all the paper that we have?
You know, in elementary school, you could use it as scrap.
If you have old rezone documents that you want to bring in, I will take them off your hands.
We'll figure something out. I'm sure I'll be encouraged to bring those binders back to you.
If I know your wife at all, the answer to that question is
Did
yes.
I name
Get them
names? I
off
simply
the
said I'll be
table.
encouraged. Didn't say by who, it could be.
Anyone?
The boys aren't home anymore, so.
Yeah, the binders you can have back, I'll take care of the paper.
Okay, so we have a likely tentative date here for the briefing session. Hearing will be scheduled at a later point in time. Bringing us just to the authorizations for our next meeting.
And I would
February.
like to point out that there is a 9th authorization. I handed out an updated agenda for this evening that includes all 9 authorizations.
It's also an 8th. Mike gave me a paper copy, I only had 7, so my first paper copy only had 7, but I see there's an 8 and a 9. The one he just gave us.
Well,
has
that's
8 and 9.
because you and
Yes.
Rebecca are back
Yeah,
to
we're
old
school.
school.
We're paper people.
And I did not get
No problem.
interim email to you.
No problem.
But there are 9
9 new ones
authorizations.
and 1 carryover from this evening. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion for the authorization for the hearings for the February meeting?
So moved.
Second, discussion.
Is the West Kennedy Street one, is that in that National Register District that's down there on South Salina? I know it goes down Kennedy. If it is, can we just make sure we have the Preservation Board comments?
Yes.
That's the easier way to do it.
Oh, yes.
It goes down Kennedy some, little bit. It's like 3 blocks on Salina Street, but then a little piece of Kennedy.
Number 8.
Is there a motion for the authorizations?
Did we do that? We did that.
Did we do that?
George,
Okay.
yeah, we did it.
We just have,
Okay.
I don't think you
We
voted
just have to
yet.
vote.
That's what I thought, okay. So,
We've got a motion and a second.
and we
There
had
just has not been
some
a
discussion that came in the form
recorded
of a question. That's clarified, no further discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Our 9 new hearings and 1 carryover are authorized. For the February meeting, anything else to come before us tonight? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Thank you. We're the 21st.
And in closing, I would just remind everyone that the February meeting is on a Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for reminding us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.